let's start. I have some preliminary explanation, so this will enable our online participants to start the session, and maybe if there are some additional people, then please let the door open, s'il vous plaît. Laissez ouvert pour quelques minutes. Okay, so I will check this. Okay, so that's okay. So the session now, it's about a showcase of initiatives on Posidonia conversation. Okay, I didn't correct this, conservation, but we will have a lot of conversation relative to Posidonia study cases. So some remarks for people online. Please precise your full name and maybe your organization, and don't hesitate to raise hands in the Zoom and ask for questions. So we will have a dedicated time for that. And the same thing in the room, please present yourselves when you want to take the floor, and the floor is open to any question and remarks. As today, okay, we have this session. So, well, a special thanks to the team who has been preparing today's session. So the team from IUCN, muchas gracias a Mari Yaprak, and also my colleague Fred from the French Biodiversity Agency, and I'm Phenia from the French Biodiversity Agency, that is also written OFB. Why are we here today? We are here today to renew the roadmap for the Mediterranean marine protected areas, and so this session should strengthen the implementation of this roadmap, following a series of recommendations that we will discuss also at the end. This is about providing communication toolkits for MPA managers, and that of course can be adapted in local contexts, and that enable to promote the value of MPAs for ecosystem services, local livelihoods, biodiversity conservation efforts, and of course how Posidonia and protection and conservation of the Posidonia can be an input, can contribute to this recommendation. We're also focusing on recommendation, 4.5, that's better like that, in order to strengthen the coordination of MPA capacity building activities between regional organizations, national authorities, and provide standardized user-friendly guidelines and training programs. And so can we do that with the Posidonia conservation? Oh, certainly, yes. Recommendation 6.1, support networking of MPA managers and other stakeholders at regional, sub-regional, and national levels, and key topics to enable scaling up of good practices, sharing of experience, mutual understanding, and to establish permanent connections between MPA stakeholders at all levels and bring the voice from the field into decision-making processes, connect with the rest of the world to amplify the impact. Does really the Posidonia habitat do that? Well, maybe. I love networking activities, so we will have an idea on that. Okay, we will come back to this as if we do exactly the exercise that is expected from us. We have these recommendations. We have to define what should be the results for the MPA roadmap. So let's say up to 2025. How do we measure that? What are the indicators? And what are the partners? So 3 recommendations and all this new word we want us to define. Okay, Sorry. So during this session, we will present approaches of networking, to address a better management of the nautical sector, to address a better land-sea integration in Posidonia coast and Posidonia banquets, and networking and country regional approach through legislation and local capacity building with stakeholders. And this will go through 3 case studies. So the first one will be about innovative and inclusive regulation for the conservation of Posidonia oceanica in the Balearic Islands with Jorge Moreno from the Balearic Islands government in Spain. Thank you very much for your contribution. The second case study is about the POSBIMED 2 project and how to preserve the Posidonia. And about preserving the Posidonia that allows to preserve the beaches of the Mediterranean with Luis HADJIOANNOU from Cyprus. I will let you present it, then your organization. Sorry for missing this information. And the third case study is about the outcomes of the Mediterranean Posidonia network. Here we are, networking, which is an inclusive partnership. And this will be presented by Frédéric VILLERS and the French Biodiversity Agency. And then we will have some time to have the discussion on how to build the recommendations for the roadmap of the Mediterranean MPAs. Okay, so, this was too quickly. So now I would like to let the floor to Mar from the IUCN Mediterranean office again, okay, to explain us a little bit more about Posidonia, please. There is a second micro.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Phenia. Really, it's just only a part of the introduction, just to put everybody in context. Maybe just only to why we are making this session and why it's so important. And I think we are all very well aware about the Posidonia, so I'm not gonna introduce that much more than to say that much of the Mediterranean Sea at the moment is covered by Posidonia in the shallow areas from 0 to 40 meters. They're considered like a kind of coral reefs of the Mediterranean. Sorry, thank you. And also they consider as the lung of the Mediterranean for the oxygen production, but it's not only the one that it is. But also another point that is very important is that much of the MPAs in the Mediterranean have Posidonia meadows within it. So that is why this session here is important and why this initiative built on Posidonia has to be linked many times in Mediterranean marine protected areas. Let's go. The next slide, please. 3 slides. And we know that Posidonia helped to mitigate and adapt to climate change. I just put this figure here, that the value of Posidonia oceanica in terms of the storage capacity on blue carbon, on carbon underneath of the soil and the biomass in comparison with with Mediterranean forests or boreal forests. You can see the Posidonia oceanica in this bar, and the blue bar is the soil carbon storage capacity versus what is stored in the plant per hectares as well. So it's important that as a mitigation capacity, but also have an important role that every day we are getting more and more, but we still don't have so much the value yet on it, on water quality, we know on erosion on the coast, and on the one in the meadows, in the sea, and the one on the beach as well. And we know that it's very protected by many regulations, but today we also has been considered vulnerable in the habitat in the EU Red List of Habitats, and that is also another important element. And as I say, is in many marine protected areas, national protected areas, Natura 2000, and so on in Mediterranean countries. Let's go on. So these are the threats that we all very well know about: coastal construction, nautical tourism. Sometimes it's, and this is linked partly on the session that you just have now, right now, in the answering impacts on the overstored capacity sometimes in some of the MPAs, because we have many boats going there in some time of the year, and the limited management capacity that the MPAs have as well, on the damage that some of the fishing is causing. Sometimes it's small scale fishing, sometimes it's large scale fishing, but it's happening in some areas in the Mediterranean still today. And another important part is the water quality that we see is more problematic, maybe a bit more difficult challenge, but it's still a big important part on how the Posidonia is not decreasing in extension, but it's decreasing on the quality of the habitat. And so that is another aspect that we should be. And maybe also is the perception of the tourists, the perception of the local people, and the sea and the land, and the increase of erosion. And we will see some examples as well on there. The increase of erosion that we are having in the coastal environment, and how Posidonia can help to mitigate that erosion part. And I think here is the typical 3 examples of what we are talking about on some of these impacts, not all of them, but some of the impacts in relation to MPAs as well. The next, I don't know if any next. What is the things that we thought important that was, we know that the Mediterranean is increased, really amazing destination for tourism, and we have about 30% of the global tourism in the world, so it's a major tourist destination. And supposed to be, we have an estimation that can get even to up to $420 million US in the economy of the region of the Mediterranean. And here is about more or less what is the tourism related in different sub-regions in the Mediterranean. It has been some estimations, always the estimations about what is the value of Posidonia. And here is an overall estimation, maybe that today we can say Posidonia, rough estimation, because we don't have a completely map of Posidonia Oceanica, neither all the ecosystem services that Posidonia are, neither the ones that are yet in the MPAs, but we can give an estimation of Posidonia Oceanica can get even to 500 million euros. So I think that compensates the value of how much we can lose if we don't manage the Posidonia Oceanica there in the Mediterranean with a very good balance on the activities. So the next, I think that's it. So with this, I just wanted to give the open to the session, and with me, I will introduce now first to Jorge.
Maybe if there are a couple of questions on this presentation, we can already have some reactions.
Okay.
So yeah, there is one.
Luis. Okay, thank you.
I cannot hold myself.
Yeah.
How did you come to or where did you find this number, 500 billion euros?
You can give somebody was gonna answer for you.
The calculation, I made it last night. No, we just ordered a study of how big is the surface of Posidonia in the Mediterranean Sea, and it's almost 2 million hectares. And the scientific literature tells us that Posidonia Oceanica is worth between 50,000 and 500,000 euros per year per hectare in terms of economical services. So it's just a simple multiplication on the average. And what's important is not so much the 500, it's just that what Mar was saying. Basically, tourism brings a lot of money every year, but Posidonia protection brings the same amount of money. So the idea is not, of course, to oppose them, but it's basically complementary to the tourism.
It's just talking about natural capital. It's just that the value that we never managed to produce, and ensure that the estimations will have to be very local, much fine-tuned.
Yeah, and does this number include the banquets? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Backend seems very, very important. I think we have also a question in our online audience. So please take the floor and present yourself.
Do we have a question?
Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, please. Sparak. Should be able to hear you soon. Please express yourself.
Atef, can you
It's
hear us?
frozen.
We cannot hear you.
We are trying to arrange the technical aspects with our technicians. Otherwise, please put it in the comments and
Do you hear me now?
yes.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi to everybody. Unfortunately, I'm not with you in this third edition of the forum. I'm listening to your session, but I wanted to just add some few comments to the presentation that Mar presented. Posidonia meadows is one of the species that is considered protected in the Annex 2 of the protocol concerning specially protected area and biological diversity of the Mediterranean of the Barcelona Convention. We are talking in the Mediterranean Forum, but we are just mentioning Posidonia is protected under the Natura Habitat, Natura 2000 Habitat Directive. But for the Mediterranean, there's a whole protocol that protect these species. But also there is a regional strategy that is established by the Mediterranean country that sets priorities, objective and action that should be implemented at medium scale. And it was, let's say, updated lastly in 2016. And Posidonia is one of the, let's say, phare species that is concerned by the action plan. So it was just a comment, addition to the importance of Posidonia in the Mediterranean. The Barcelona Convention is considering the Posidonia as the hotspot, like the Coralligenous, and it deserves, let's say, our attention and a whole action plan for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This helps to have the whole picture also at regional level. And this is really relevant and useful. So it's good to have all these strategic and programmatic documents and initiatives to come. Okay, so let's continue with the presentation of the first case study with Jorge Moreno from the Balearic Islands government. We'll have the presentation now. I let you the floor. You can tell me when I manage that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Where should I put it?
On the computer. The computer.
Let's see before if there's something.
Let me, you say next slide and I
Okay.
handle that. Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon again. Well, I'm Jorge Moreno from the Balearic government. I work for the Wildlife Conservation Service, and then I am involved really in the conservation of species in the island, and I'm in part one of the main responsibles of this what I'm going to present. I'm going to present a special case, which is the one that we have in the Balearic Island. Most of you have heard about it, but for those who didn't, I will try to make in 10 minutes just a brief review of what we are doing. Well, this is the implementation of this decree what we are talking about. Like just has been said a minute ago, Posidonia is protected by many laws. In the case of the Balearic, we have the Habitat Directive 1992. Then it was transposed into national legislation with the law for natural heritage and biodiversity in 2007. This law said that there has to be a list of protected species and endangered species that has to be approved by decree. This decree was approved in 2011, and it appointed Posidonia as a protected species at the same level of protection, like for example, ospreys or turtles or things like this. And I always point with this that in this decree there are, I think, 452 species listed, and only one of them the legislator put an asterisk across. So that when you read what does it want to say? Say that the legislators or regional or governmental could regulate the operation for anchoring or mooring where needed. So it just they were aware that this was a special case. It's not a bird. It's not a species that moves. It's a whole habitat that covers really big extension, and it's close to the near shore, and it affects a lot of places. So with this, what we said in Balearic Island, we have almost the 50% of the Posidonia of the Spanish coast, and also the 50% of the pressure of nautical uses, and 16.5 million tourists that go to the beaches each year before the COVID, of course. So that means that we had to do something, because if you were a very strict application, this decree, you could not touch even a piece of Posidonia in the beach, a remain of Posidonia, because it's protected as the plant, as the leaf plant itself. So we said, let's go further and try to implement to take these opportunities that the law gives us, which is that allows us to make some exceptions for motivated by social economical reasons. This is really important, of course, also for healthy reasons. I said, let's interpret what we can do there for allowing or try to compatible the uses that we need, because we live of the tourism, and of course with the aim to preserve the Positonia. So we made a decree that it was implemented and approved in 2018 for the conservation of Positonia. This decree, we have noticed it, of course, it was logical, but you notice it when you are there. It takes a lot of things, a lot of areas, it's a lot of competences, because as we got talking, we have 1,500 kilometers of coastline. So we have 580 almost beaches or small beaches, and we have 650 square kilometers of Posidonia. So we touch many areas, the ports, the tourism, the touristic beaches, everything. So we have to do many things about that. It's being very complicated, but we are proud that we are improving a lot of actions, and by the moment they have been almost all of them quite successful. So it has to be with some things that the grid obliges us to do is to delimitate the Posidonia. It also says which is the protection that is established, what you can do and what is not. And it has been said in the former session upstairs about, for example, something so easy and so logical, like say that an anchor on the Posidonia seabed damages the Posidonia, has to be said in a law, so you can then penalty this. If it's not written in who said that it's damaging, why? So this decree said that this is considered as an administrative fault. This is very important too. Well, so we regulate also the uses. We regulate these exceptions also. We make the supervision of the projects that for other administrations to build ports or to build anything for environmental impact, and Posidonia has to be considered in these evaluations. And we also create two things. That is, one is I talk about in other sessions. Is the Macedonia Fund. That is it's a fund which is for activities for projects that has to do with Posidonia, that is it's a public fund, and that gets money for compensation actions, also for the government. And it's in this moment, I can say that it's an incredible successful tool for funding the conservation of nature, because it's finalist. So that means that when the year ends, if you have money there and you haven't spent it, this doesn't go to another administration for the next budget of the next year. So you keep it there and you can continue doing the actions. Also, there's a Macedonia committee where there are 30 members that have an overview what the action that we are doing, and we can also consult them. There is the navigator section, the fishermen, the NGOs, the university, the scientific, and the other administrations. Is almost everybody there. And it's also a good help and a big commitment for us. And also we also make we work on best practices for managing Posidonia banquets on the beach, because this is quite important in our business one. Well, so let me present some of these topics where we are working. We are doing awareness. This awareness is just when you put a legislation and you forbid something, you have to give first information, and second, a way to allow people to do the things well done. So it's not going to penalty everybody. So then we have a group of boats, which is only for the Posidonia. It's 15 boats during all the summer, from 10 in the morning till 8 in the evening, all days patrolling in 15 places where we have the biggest problem with this is for navigators, this is for boats, and we aware them of the legislation if they don't know, and we check that the boat is well anchored, and if it is not, we said you have to move, and if they don't want to move, then we call the authority that can put the penalty. But it's working. The people is understanding that they can't go against that. It's obvious. Nobody can in this moment of the times that we are living say that we are against natural conservation, and people understand that Posidonia has to be conserved because we are telling it in every way. Not only these 15 boats are working, because also there are protected areas. There are all the other mooring buoys, camps where they have also boats, and they also aware the people. So in summer we have in the top of the summer 29 boats working in this project. Next one. This is just to see that for the numbers of these services, we have checked in this year more than 100,000 boats, speaking with the skippers and tell them. And the good thing is, if you see the number of boats that were bad anchored in the different years, from 2018 it was 70%, 2019 10%. 1% in Formentera, which is the most complicated place that we have because of the amount of boats and for the size of the boats. Really big yachts are anchoring there, over 40 meters and hundreds of them, but over 100 meters, some of them. Next year it was 7.8, and this year it was 4.7. So you think people are completing the legislation, and we are really very proud about it. And we have put just a very few number of penalties. Next one, please. Well, also about the navigation, I told you that it is important to give a solution or give a help when you forbid anything to allow people to accomplish the legislation. And this is the first thing we have made, which is a Posidonia map of all our seagrass. This costed about 750,000 euros to complete, because we went for this was only for the island of Mallorca, because for Formentera, Ibiza, and Menorca we have a good cartography before, and at least we have developed this cartography with no less than 1 meter of mistake. And then there's an application that you can get it on the mobile, and you put where are you, and it assigns you with an area of security if there's risk of damage or not. It says in green, also it says in red. So if it's in red, you should not anchor there because, well, one thing important, in spite of their Posidonia, you can anchor if there is sun in the middle. Okay, what is protected is the plant, is the species, not the sun around. Okay, so that means that we give them the help to know if they are doing well or not. And this is also having very, very good acceptance. And we have, as it has been paid with public resources, I think this is public, and not only for Spain, but also for other countries. For example, we have given the cartography to the application Donia, which is French and is for all the Mediterranean. So they have now the best cartography that is available for us. This is shared with other platforms. Yes, and our application, and then what we want is people to do the things well done. Next one, please. If it wants. Another thing that we are doing is monitoring Posidonia. We have a monitoring network of 40 stations that started in 2012, and we are continuing it. We are paying it from the Macedonia Fund for the compensation measures of building of a big port in Menorca. And well, it's a way not only to know what's the state, the health of the signals but also it's a way to involve people, because we do it with there is a company that coordinates it, but we do it with volunteers for diving clubs, and this is a very, very good way to enroll people to do it. We have many more divers that want to participate, that the availability that we have, and also this is a way for not only doing conservation but also to involve and to have some ambassadors telling what is the importance of this and what are the actions made. Next one. Well, and then the other one thing that I have to be very, very close, because I don't have 1 hour to take all the other things. But one thing that we are also working a lot is with the banquets, with the remains of Posidonia in the beaches. As I told you, there's a long coast, there's a very big number of beaches, and there's a very big number of tourists. So in summer they want to have the beaches clean, and it's not possible in everywhere, because the decree says in which beaches you can do something or what you can do, and in which beaches you cannot. Because in natural beaches without service, you cannot take the Posidonia away. In urban beaches, you can take them away during the period more or less more wide, from March to end of October. And in natural beaches with services, you can do it from the beginning of end of April till end of September. So it's a different situation, different things allowed for different kinds of beaches and different ways of working with them. Because we have the remains, we have to tell them how to collect them, how to transport them to make as less damage to the beach, in this case, not the Posidonia remains. What we try to conserve here is the beach, and this is something that the touristic sector understands very well, because they live on it. Where to storage it, what to do with it, because we allow traditional uses, especially for farming and cattle. And also in which places you have to return, and at the end of the season, the Posidonia to the beaches, especially in the beaches that are on regulation. Next one.
And if I may remind something important to everybody, is that dead Posidonia is also under protection status.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, just to keep it in mind for everybody.
We don't want the Posidonia to go to the vertedero. How is the Posidonia has to be used or returned. We don't want the Posidonia to go like a waste. And come on, the next one. It's taking more time to change that to speak. Well, one of the tools that we have done is a guide to which would we interpret that is the best way to do these actions, and where and when and how and what tips do you have to follow. And this has been done in collaboration with all the environmental techniques of all the coastal municipalities of Mallorca. It was done during the pandemic, so it was on by Zoom. But we are really proud that they participate, and that what we did was to read the decree together and say, that means that we can understand this is not possible, and then at least we make a guide of what will be the best practices for this is for operators. It's not for public. And instead of that in spite of it can be interesting for many people, but it's for public, for operators. The other way. Well, next one. Next one. Technicians. Well, what I told you, yes, this is the number of coastal municipalities that we have to contact and who are obliged, because the municipalities are the responsible of the cleaning of the beaches, of the maintenance. So these are the ones that are working. And then here you have, for example, in Mallorca, what are the municipalities that has answered with giving us what are the protocols for cleaning, and we have validated them with the decree, and what are the others that still remaining to do it. That doesn't mean that they are doing things bad. It only means that they had not passed this validation that we make to the others. And well, I think that they will be done this year probably, because it's something that is working very well. Another thing that is interesting, I don't know if it's in the next slide, but anyway, you can see it here. If you see the beaches, they're in two colors, are in blue and yellow. The yellow one are the ones that are managed, and the blue one are the ones that they don't manage. That's important information for people, because especially many NGOs tell us that we are moving much Posidonia. And we said, no, not in all the beaches, because in the major part of the beaches, even the municipality don't move. So what actions can we do? Implement of the actions related on the decree test is what we have to do, because there's a lot of things remaining to do. We have to maintain the financing mechanisms for activities. For this, the Macedonia Fund is a warranty at this moment. Of course, keep the stakeholders role on, then participation and information and all the things. If they see that you are clarified, then they collaborate much more. If you give the opportunity to the people to do the things well done, they usually prefer to do it well. Permanent awareness of public information. These are actions that we will maintain. Possible indicators for the activity, that is what we need for the plan. Well, maybe number of boats aware per year, but I saw how many and which is the percentage that fits with the legislation. Percentage of municipalities involved in beach management, that we hope will be 100%, or number of divers involved in the monitoring. Partnerships, the one that we have been working with, the Balearic government, which is the responsibility of the implementation, other administration, mainly the municipalities, the touristic sector, meaning beach and hotel services and concessionaires, the scientific, which are present in the Posidonia committee, and the civil society users, and of course, NGOs, which are also present. And I think this is the last one. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, and may I insist that for the partnerships, we will talk about that in the next presentations afterwards, but we had a great partnership with the Balearic Islands government to organize the Mediterranean Posidonia network last September, a couple of months ago. And yeah, it was great to have your experience and share it with participants from 11 countries all over, 60 participants, 11 countries all over the Mediterranean.
As you know, we are trying to spread all this information to everywhere, because I think it may be useful for other places and other countries.
Yes, thank you very much. So we can take a couple of short questions. Stay here if there are questions for you. Don't. So I would like to be. We keep this in mind. Are there questions in the audience or from online? Yes, there is one. So we took first the online question, please. Do you want a micro so we can hear you? Okay.
I just asked Lydia Alvano if she wanted to, to share, but I will read the question from Lydia. Is there a way, algorithm to assess the percentage of banquets that can be removed for sustainable use and the one that should return or remain in place for the ecosystem function, nutrient cycle, sand dunes, recharge, and so on?
Yes, we take it. I didn't have time to tell it. We control that, and we measure. The municipalities give us the number of tons that they have removed and what did they do with that. How much went to one farmers or to other places, and how much is coming back to the beach. We are very proud for two things because they are giving this information, and the other thing is that they are taking in account that returning the Posidonia is something that fits very well. It's something that is well seen. So some of them are returning the Posidonia in spite of they shouldn't be obliged to, because the beach is not on regulation or something like this. But they say, no, we want to return it. And we have, well, perhaps you will talk about it.
Yes.
I'm Fabio Bulleri from the University of Pisa. So if they do not return the Posidonia, what they should do with it? So probably they return it because it would be more expensive to store it somewhere else.
Well, normally,
which is not a problem. Just curiosity.
Well, normally they used to give it to the farmers, and it was all the Posidonia could be given because there is some such demand. They do it for free. This is something very important also, and is that in the legislation of the laws of conservation, when you talk about a protected species, there are uses that you cannot damage, you cannot destroy, but you cannot sell, you cannot commerce, you cannot exchange, nothing. You cannot take a euro cent from Posidonia, dead or alive. So we tell them, you can give it for free for this kind of uses, traditional uses, and if not, it's recommendable to give it back to the beaches. In the decree, it said that you must do it if the beach is on regulation process. The problem is that we don't have still the catalog of all the beaches that are in regulation process. We have some of them, for example, in some natural park that there have been more studies, and so all the Posidonia is returned there. And in other, we don't have they don't have the obligation to do it. But normally, at this moment, we are proud that probably they would talk about, because we have some experience some years ago, some weeks ago only. The municipalities are taking they are choosing to return it because it is a green mark or blue mark for the municipality.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias, Jorge. Okay, so we can continue now with the next study case, and I'd like to invite Luis HADJIOANNOU from Cyprus, and I let you present yourself. So you have your presentation, and
you pronounce my surname very well, which is normally very difficult. Ah, okay. Okay, you fooled me. All right. Good afternoon, everybody.
Number 2, study case 2.
Yeah, my name is Luis HADJIOANNOU. I'm a researcher at the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute, but also at the NGO and Alia Physis. I'll have to ask for your forgiveness because I have a lot of slides, which some of them will go past very fast, but it will be a bigger problem to pass the slides exactly with that problematic button. Yeah, let's wait a bit. Yeah, there. Great. Okay, so yeah, I'll be presenting a project that has been running since November 2019. We are approaching the end of it. Is an Interreg Med funded project called POSBIMED 2, and it's focusing on banquets, but not only on banquets. The name is Governance and Management of Posidonia Beach Dune Systems Across the Mediterranean. Can we go to the next slide? Ah, great, it works then. Excellent. Okay, so the aim of the project is to catalyze on the results of different projects. As you probably understood, there was a PostBMed 1 project, since this is PostBMed 2, which produced very interesting results on especially the perception of Posidonia banquets in the Mediterranean coastline. And so PostBMed 2 aims to manage the Mediterranean coastline by developing planning strategies that recognize the value of the connection between Posidonia, the meadows, beach, banquets, and dune, also another priority habitat, an important habitat. And integrate them into the overall coastal strategy while also addressing concerns and educating the stakeholders and building a network, of course. So in all, we're trying to make protected areas more adaptable and resilient to the effects of climate change and accumulation of other impacts. Next slide, please. Okay, so basically we try to implement a local framework for decision-making for Posidonia banquets, for the management of Posidonia banquets, at the same time increase awareness of stakeholders, and of course to provide better integration, planning tools to be incorporated into management planning and coastal policies. Next slide, please. I will go really quickly through some of them because I have a lot of slides. Some basic information on the project. As I said, it's an Interreg Med, so there is partners from all around the Mediterranean, from Spain, from France, from Italy, Croatia, Greece, and Cyprus, as well as associated partners, which include municipalities, managers of coastal areas, tourism agencies and boards, very important stakeholder, as you will understand later on, protected areas, management bodies, and other interesting partners. As I said, the project runs from November 2019 and it will finish in June 2022. So a big part of the project was implemented during the pandemic, and I think it's a great success that we managed to do a lot of stuff with all the complications. Next slide, please. So 5 work packages. Obviously, the work package 1 is the management of the project, work package 2 on the communication and awareness. We had a work package specifically on testing some pilot studies, action plans. I will describe this a little bit further later on. A work package on capacity building and transferring, of course, and finally, work package 5 on capitalization. Next slide. But yeah, there's a lot of interest and a lot of knowledge, and many stakeholders and scientists in general know about the importance of Posidonia meadows. But how many do they know about the importance of Posidonia banquets? Yes, of course, the people here probably, some managers of protected areas, but in general, there is great misconception and lack of knowledge on what is Posidonia banquets and why are they important. So basically, as you can understand, Posidonia banquets are the dead leaves, the accumulation of dead leaves of the seagrass, Posidonia oceanica. And not a lot of people know that these dead leaves that accumulate on the beaches, they are a habitat forming. It's a habitat on its own, and they are important ecosystem engineers. So they have the ability to influence the hydrodynamically the environment. They buffer against erosion, a huge problem all around the Mediterranean, all around the world, basically. And they also play a relevant role in ecological processes, for example, the formation of dunes through the connectivity and the nutrient passing from the sea to the land. Next slide, please. So yeah, as I said, their importance lies not only in the fact that they are a buffer for erosion, but they are also important for the littoral zone due to the nutrient exchange. So Posidonia increases basically the biogenic sediment supply to beaches, And the beaches import through these connectivity, organic matter and nutrients from the sea to the coastal ecosystems, and basically contribute to the nitrogen and calcium carbonate requirements of dune vegetation and adjacent habitats. Next slide, please. So yeah, what is the main issue here that we have identified through POSBIMED 1, but also through POSBIMED 2, is that one of the major challenges is that today there is still great negative perception on what exactly is the purpose, or why should we like to have Posidonia lives, dead Posidonia lives on beaches. And by us, I mean all of us, and especially the beachgoers. We are all beachgoers, even the scientists. But we scientists can understand the importance better. So this project aimed to also pay a great attention into trying to change the perception of tourists, because it's the tourism demand that basically forces, let's say, the managers to remove the Posidonia from the beaches. And it's, of course, a misconception. So, as I said, banquets are perceived as an aesthetic problem, and so they are removed many times using very bad practices, affecting, in general, the ecosystem. Next slide, please. Okay, so actions. What are the actions that we have implemented through the project? And these are some of the actions. I will start by showing some of the actions to increase awareness of stakeholders connected with Work Package 2 and Work Package 4. As I mentioned, we try to build the knowledge of local stakeholders, including tourist operators, beach managers, beachgoers, and many other important stakeholders. We had local programs and engagement activities. We ran seminars on the development of ecotourism initiatives, and of course, to raise awareness, to build stakeholder support for more nature-oriented management strategies. So what we did is as you can see also in the next slide, we had a lot of publications in social media, in newspapers, and these are just some examples from what we did in Cyprus. Similar things happened all around the Mediterranean. We had workshops targeting specifically stakeholders. We had workshops for tourist operators. We had workshops for beach managers, and also we had information panels, signs put in specific areas where we felt like it was important to increase the awareness of the visitors. Next slide, please. 1 minute, really? Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about the testing that we did. Go to the next slide, please. So in each of the countries that I mentioned that the project has been running, and we had pilot studies where we tested management measures, and this is the beach in Cyprus, Spiros Beach, is a Natura 2000 area. Next slide. So we tried to do a pilot study on alternative management strategies, and these are things that have already been done in other areas such as the Balearics or Sardinia, but in Cyprus this was unheard of until this project. So basically we took the beach and we split it in half almost, and we had non-removal areas and removal areas. Bear in mind that every year the municipality removes completely the Posidonia and Banquets. So we have them as associate partners, and we persuaded them to do this test. Next slide, please. In order, though, to have a better understanding of the area, we also used historical analysis from aerial photography. So we measured using remote sensing the Posidonia meadows. We found using historical aerial photography, as I said, we found that from 1993 until 2021, there was a reduction in Posidonia meadows. It's important to know at least so that we have the baseline information of the area. Next slide, please. We also did, using aerial photography, a comparison of the coastline through the years, and we found that in the beach the specific beach. There is a desalination station there, by the way. We found that the beach has been growing in some parts and reducing in other parts. So maybe it's not evident from these pictures, but there was erosion in many areas. Next slide, please. We also did topographic surveys because we run transects. So in order to understand better the vegetation and the dunes and in general, the topography of the area, so that again, to build a baseline information. So we found that the long-term topographic monitoring is of great importance, as is the only way to record the ongoing changes such as erosion. Next slide, please. So the results showed that Posidonia meadow density is reducing, as I said earlier. We also did Banquette composition and sediment analysis, and we found the most important thing that we found is that inside the Posidonia banquettes, there is 56% sand. And why is this important? This is important because the beach managers, by removing the banquettes, they are removing a large chunk of sand, which is very important. As you can understand, the beachgoers go to the beach because of the sand. So if you remove the banquettes, you're removing the sand at the same time, and it's a great it's a problem, not just an ecological problem, but also for tourism. Next slide, please. So the evaluation of the testing activity, basically, we found out that, yes, local managers are willing to participate. Public awareness is a challenging factor. Some of these I will go through very fast. There is a lack of knowledge regarding the financial costs and benefits, so we need to put some more effort in that. There should be a more interactive role of the public in the decision making. So we need supplementary interventions by associated partners in order to address the issues of heavy vehicle usage, which are being used to remove the banquettes and so causing a large problem, ecological problem. Long-term monitoring is fundamental. So this was just the beginning. We are hoping that this will continue. And of course, further research is needed to safely advise the managers in relation to cost-benefit outcomes. Public acceptance and collaboration is the driving force of any successful management. Of course, it makes sense. And so out of this, a well-rounded plan, which has to be flexible, has been designed. This is an outcome of the project based on scientific methodologies that is simple to implement and effective. So finally, we proposed an alternative management and monitoring strategy that promotes the recovery of the natural beach system. Next slide, please. As I said, we produced an action framework plan with 2 pillars: management, establishment of areas of action and non-action, direct actions on banquettes, actions on the coastal area, actions on the marine area, and actions on capacity building, highly important, education and awareness raising, and of course, a pillar on monitoring activities. Next slide, please. And finally, and very importantly, the last part of the project on capitalization, what we have done, next slide, please, is that we have started to formulate a charter of commitment. We had a great event a couple of weeks ago in Palma with a high attendance from the tourism sector and beach managers, of course, also, where we discussed the creation of this charter of commitment, which will aim to do awareness raising about the importance of protecting our marine and coastal ecosystem among all beach stakeholders and beachgoers. It aims to highlight Mediterranean character and make it the identity of a new tourism model, helping the creation of an engaged Mediterranean stakeholder network. So the objectives are to become a mobilization tool, a dissemination tool, and a place to valorize actions, unifying an identity tool that shows that you belong to a Mediterranean community. So this charter of commitment, we are hoping that it will be signed by and supported by many partners, including beach managers, local authorities, decision makers, beach users, tourism actors, education actors, scientific actors. We had all sorts of different great ideas during the workshop of last week. And so we are now in the process of implementing this. Next slide, please. Thank you. Sorry for taking too long.
Thank you. That's really, wow, very, very interesting to see how you handle with that in your place, and to see that we have different dynamics that are gathering all together for Posidonia conservation, but including stakeholders and a lot of supporting partners. So that's really great. Let's take a couple of questions. Two quick questions. I think we have one from the online audience. So please, do you want the microphone?
We actually have two from the online and one that was shared through the chat. So whilst many Emanuele Rocco can prepare to take the floor, I will share with you this question from Louis Vercotteren. That is probably a question intended to Jorge Moreno and the Balearic Islands. He was asking if there were zones with eco-moorings that were established to protect the Posidonia, and if yes, how they were funded.
Yes, in this time there are several Posidonia mooring buoys camp, 7 or 8 from the government. It was developed years ago with a life project, Posidonia life project. So, they are working and they are financed by the government, the installation of the buoys, but then they are giving in concession to some companies that they apply for it under the conditions of the regulation of the government, and they pay a quantity for each year for the exploitation of the buoys. The prices are settled by the government, and they are in charge of the maintenance and the surveillance of these camps. And in the future, the decree established areas that we call areas to be managed, and established 23 in this moment, but it can be changed by the regional and with the consultant of the Posidonia committee. We identified 23 areas, which are mostly 23 marinas, 23 little bays, where we have both things, Posidonia and frequentation. So these are the areas that we are proposing to be the next mooring camps. In this moment, this is going on with the first 5 of them in different islands, Menorca, Mallorca, and Ibiza. We try to share we try to separate from island, I mean, for not to be jealous from one island to the other. And in this case, the mooring camps will be also paid by the government, and probably the management and of it that you should have to pay to anchor there will be directly managed by the ports association of the Balearic government, not private ports. The administrative agency that is in charge of the ports. And one thing which is important in this, and the decree said that, because the navigators section making an allegation when we were in the public information process that the ports have to be managed by public administration, and also that the prices will have to be established in order to social participation, or let's say not for to do a business, but for the allowing people to know all these places. Okay, this is a good criteria, because we were they were very concerned about that in some parts of the Balearic Islands, in some of these bays, you could have something like maybe you have here in the port of Monaco, and is that it doesn't matter the price you put, that there will be somebody that will pay, and this will accept and will put away the local navigators.
Thank you very much for these highlights. Let the micro to Luis. Maybe there is one question for him.
Hi. So thank you for all the presentation. They're super interesting. So I have just one question. So we are an impact company and we work in technology. We are developing autonomous robots, artificial intelligence, and satellite observation for precise mapping of the underwater habitats and the water column. So my question is, if you have a dream wish list, what it is, what can you know, what you wish for, new data or precise data for to enable like intelligent insight that you can act on conservation. So essentially, if you can be everywhere, if you can have a scuba diver, an expert scuba diver, clone it, take the intelligence, put it in a robot and put it underwater, what data would you like? What resolution would you like? That's a question. Thank you.
Someone would like to answer?
Yes.
I think his question is whether if we could use robots or
We are reformulating the question,
Yeah,
and there will be someone answering.
for monitoring the
for monitor, yeah, for mapping initially when I monitor.
well, for mapping we
What would we like to have from this kind of tools instead of divers?
well, in this moment, the monitoring is making by divers because we have a long series of data taken with this protocol, and we don't want to interrupt it. And also because, of course, surely can be done with the new technologies. There's the possibility of doing it, and maybe, well, I will say maybe cheaper, but in this case, it's not expensive because it's done by volunteers. So we only pay the coordination and the data that we are telling about the number of leaves and the density and the distribution and the coverage and all these things are the one that we need in this moment and are enough for us. I want to say one thing, and is that we are the administration, we are the government, we are not a research institute or investigation. So you can always go further on the data that you want to take, but sometimes we have to say, well, with this we are available. We use also ROVs for comproving if the data that we take by the scan, the sonar lateral, how is it done, was in some places we were not sure if the lines were well put it because the data was not so clear. So we use ROVs or divers. But well, in this moment with this cartography we have enough.
I think you mentioned something very important at the beginning of your intervention now, and it is the fact that we need divers to look at specific aspects of the Posidonia, like how many leaves or how many roots are upgrowing or side growing, because this is an indication of whether the Posidonia meadow is expanding or reducing. So I really don't think, or maybe there is this kind of technology that can do this instead of human divers, but really I think it's something that you really need experts. Well, even divers that are not experts, if you teach them how to do it, they can do it. But I don't think there is this kind of technology yet that can do that. Is there?
Micro, please, micro.
I guess that divers cannot cover huge areas as some meadows. So from what I know, one of the problems is that side scan sonar does not work, or actually it cannot be used in very shallow water. Okay, so probably, yeah. So it's probably a problem.
But in very shallow water, we use satellite and photo interpretation.
Sorry, you have to share the micro, but we need also to move forward to the next presentation. So the ending word for this question.
The answer is whether if you are trying to map, then sure, you can use technology. But if you're trying to see specific aspects, qualities of the Posidonia, I think you cannot do it for the moment without humans.
Thank you very much. There is a lot of perspectives to discuss about Posidonia. So we need to move forward because we are missing some time with the next study case, which is about the Mediterranean Posidonia network. Yes, it does exist. It's a very young network, the last one of the last one, we could say. And so Frédéric VILLERS from the French Biodiversity Agency will make the presentation. You can present yourself,
Yes.
and it will
Thank you, Phenia. I'm Frédéric VILLERS, working for the French Biodiversity Agency, and I will try to speak really shortly about the Mediterranean Posidonia network. Basically, this network is really recent, even doesn't have 2 years old. Everything started, next please. Everything started basically 2 years ago in Athens, where the European Commission organized the Biogeographical Congress about anchors away, and the topic was the impact of anchoring in Posidonia, basically. And after 2 or 3 days, it was a really interesting meeting where we met actually from different European countries, our equivalent of, okay, oh, you're also interested in this issue, so interesting. So let's try to go further than just this meeting, and let's keep updated by Zoom and organize something. And 2 years, and then 2 years after, we were like, okay, next please. So at the beginning, the issue of the network was how to better protect the Posidonia habitat from anchoring. I'm not going to speak about the impact of anchoring, you all know, just one number. A boat of 50 meters in one mowing can impact up to 1/4 of a football field in one night. So that gives you an idea of how is the damage. And in many areas, especially in some MPAs in France, we lost up to 30% of the Posidonia seagrasses in less than 10 years. Next, please. Today, where are we in this network? So for 2 years, we were contacting each country. We were working with international associations, with the CAR. And right now, in 2021, we have 11 countries who are part of the network. What's important, it's not just to create a network, to have another network, there are already many things. It's basically to be operational and to be inclusive, which is highly important. We don't want to have only a network of scientists, have a network of authorities. We also want to have private sectors and nautical sectors. Basically here, the map at the top of the Posidonia area, and we almost have all countries. So sometimes it's MPA with part of the network from the country. Sometimes it's authorities, sometimes it can be environmental associations or regions like the government of Balearics in the beginning. Next, please. So basically, what do we want to do? Well, originally in 2020, what's important is there are many countries where they don't know yet where exactly the position of Posidonia. So first is to increase knowledge. Then, even if theoretically Posidonia is protected everywhere, we can see that Posidonia is still degrading. At the Mediterranean scale, we can see a loss of Posidonia in the last decades. So basically, the overall objective is to find a way to reinforce pragmatically regulations. And then the three other points was, well, basically to raise awareness. That's something quite interesting. Posidonia is highly important for us, and it's not as famous as coral reefs or mangroves, though it's as important. And as at the beginning, the network was about anchoring. Well, what's nice with anchoring is there's an easy solution. It's not easy, but it's not so complicated from a political point of view. It's to put basically boards to find a safe solution for captains. Next, please. And we already launched some studies. I'll just give you here an interesting result. So we wanted to know basically where is the Posidonia habitat on the Mediterranean scale. So on this data, you see in green, it's where we know we have Posidonia habitats with available geographical data. And in orange, it's areas where we think we have Posidonia data, but it's not yet clear data. And where you don't see anything, like here, southeast of the Mediterranean Sea, we know that there's not any more Posidonia habitat now. Next, please. So we try to make some results, like in which country, for each country, where is the presence of the Posidonia? Is in the MPAs? Is it protected? If it's protected, from which type of protection? Do we have already a national law against anchoring, for instance? So it gives you this data, which, well, we won't have time to debate about it, but at least it creates most of the time some reactions, which was basically the objective of that. Next, please. And what's highly interesting is I just show you this thing. In this report, which will be available online, per country, we made a summary about what is the national law about Posidonia, what is the specific national laws for against anchoring, the international commitments of the country, what has been done so far, and what should be done more. And that's highly important, because from this thing, now in each country, we have an idea of who are the main targets we have to focus in terms of energy and money to convince them to change things. It can be to create new regulations, to start an economic project, to find money. This thing, from this thing, everything can start. And that's where we're really happy. Like, for instance, the car, they had a meeting a few weeks ago, and they started a project on this thing to enforce regulations and knowledge about Posidonia. Next, please. What we have done as well is to create a website, madepositonianetwork.com, thanks to our colleague from Ontario, Daisy, from White Sand. The idea of this website is basically to give all the available and updated information about Posidonia. What is Posidonia? What are the facts? What are the data? What is the presence in each country? So far, our website is a lot about anchoring, so the pressure of boats, and most importantly, what is the regulation in each country about boat anchoring? Where can you anchor? What are the available data? What are the different apps in each country, in Balearic Islands, in France, in other countries? And then get on board. That's all the different awareness campaigns that have been organized, basically on, for instance, the festival in Formentera, which is interesting. Next, please. In a nutshell, the network so far has been more than 20 meetings. We organized the first physical meeting in Formentera 2 months ago. It has been really interesting. And of course, the network is quite open to every new member. It's free, so it's quite rare now. So if you want to join, please.
Everyone is welcome.
Yes. And I'm sure maybe it will bring over discussions. I just wanted also to highlight 2 other things, because the topic today was also about innovation, about Posidonia, and we are starting to study in France. One of them is quite correlated of what Louis was presented about post-BMed, is we realize that it's been 20 years, even more, that we give money to raise awareness about Posidonia and how important it is not to anchor. And at least in France, we see that it's not working. They are not enough. That basically means well, let's be honest, we're not good enough in terms of communication. We are really good to create tools, but we never thought of, okay, what is the tool adapted to the target I want to have? So basically, we're starting this year a study, a sociological study, to understand who still anchors in Posidonia, what is the main target, and what is the main message adapted to this target. We're not going to speak the same language for a professional yachter or for someone who is a retired local and from Monaco. And another study, it's something we never really studied so far. It's, when you anchor in Posidonia, we always think, okay, or we tell them go to the sand or go to the mooring, but we never really thought as well of maybe on the market, all the different anchoring you can buy for your boat. Maybe some of them are have a better impact, worse impact than another one. So we're going to make a scientific study as well to test different anchors, not only from a safety point of view. So far, it has been always from a safety point of view, but also from an environmental point of view. And these things will be translated in English to basically be integrated to the network. I think that's all. Yes, and now I will let Phenia. Thank you.
Okay, let's open the floor to questions that can be related to the 3 presentation of the study cases, and specifically to ask you in your MPA, what would be the first solution you would do about Posidonia? How to increase the capacity building of marine protected areas managers to better protect Posidonia? And how to take measures in marine protected areas that will not impact non-protected areas? And anything else you would like to say. So I don't know if there is a question in the room. I think there are a lot of questions online, but okay. Yeah, no, not for the moment, no. From previous, yeah, yes, I would like to have a Greek question for a Greek answer. No, it's a joke for the translators. And then in the room. So Lydia, we should have you online and listen to you in a couple of seconds.
Really? Can I pose my question? Really?
We can hear you. Yes, go on. Please.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you and hear you. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Thank you, Louis, because it's for the Louis the question, but it came to me as I was watching the presentation. Really, what arguments, or I said something like a catchphrase or a motto or something, have been used during your communication campaign to reverse this, this negative users mindset? Do you have an insight on the most effective ones? I was thinking because there are so many arguments you can use with the Posidonia, and I was also thinking the nature-based solution. We have yesterday a very good presentation about that, and I was wondering maybe you introduced the idea of a nature-based solution with Posidonia, or it was something else? Thank you.
Yeah, hi Lydia. Nice to hear you. Yeah, of course, we had some great exercises during the workshop of the previous weeks with the stakeholders, and there were lots and lots of ideas on how to try to change the perceptions, on what exactly to put in the charter of commitment, on how to persuade the managers, to all the subjects that I explained earlier. I really can't remember something a specific one now. Mark, do you remember anything specific that was really, highlighted? Yeah.
Thank you. Hello.
Thank you.
Yes, I think maybe this is Mar from IUCN. That also participated with Luis in the project. So I think what we are trying to change is the looking at how we're looking at the Mediterranean beaches as no Caribbean ones. So we are trying to change the focus on there. And there is where we are developing a new campaign on that at the moment. So I will not tell you the mottos because we are still discussing about it, but there will be coming also guidelines for the private sector soon, next year, very soon, on how we can progress on these efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have another question here in the room. Please present yourself.
Jean-Michel Couliot, l'Office d'environnement de la Corse et réserve des Bouches de Bonifacio. Merci Marc. Je viens de répondre sans doute un peu à la question que je voulais poser. Mais je pense que Georges pourrait aussi quand même y répondre. On parle de concepts souvent de plages naturelles dans lesquelles on doit intégrer la Posidonie, dans laquelle on pourrait penser que la Posidonie est une superbe banquette pour bronzer, pour jouer. Jouer avec des feuilles, c'est fantastique. Et je pense que est-ce que les activités touristiques peuvent penser que les nouvelles générations vont chercher des plages naturelles. Et on a commencé avec Sinis à le faire, entre Bonifacio et Sinis. Et j'aurais voulu savoir si dans les expériences des Baléares et dans les autres expériences et ce que vous menez dans le cadre du projet, si ce concept-là a des chances d'aboutir. Mais tu as commencé déjà à répondre à la question, je voulais aller sur ce terrain-là. Mais peut-être que Georges peut aussi voir sur les Baléares.
Jorge, would you like to give a piece of answer, or Mar again? Yeah. Okay, Mar, yeah, give you the floor.
What we did was organize a big meeting for joining many Mediterranean countries, including people from the Corsica and from the tourist sector, and trying to change with them how we could do development on the concept of the Mediterranean beaches. So that is our new way to follow there. And I think Baleares is part of it, because we organized the meeting in Baleares as well, and Cyprus and other tourist stakeholders that we are trying to work with them to move that shift. So yeah, it's going on. It's in the mind, it's in the mind.
And may I invite you to, if it's not already the case, to share with the Mediterranean Posidonia network some of this experience and the outcomes. Please send us short news to be on the website and have it like a shared platform for all the initiatives all over the Mediterranean. It's an open and inclusive network, so use it. Okay, we are almost at the end of the dedicated time. Well, it's a pity, but had a lot of interesting issues that we could go deepen. I don't know, we can have a final remark if someone wants to say something. Ou se taire à jamais. Well, okay, there's a last online question and we finish on that.
Yeah, we have Daisy Aguilera online who wants to take the floor. So please, Daisy, feel free.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Daisy Aguilera. I'm based in Formentera. Just a colleague from the Mediterranean Posidonia network. It's a great network, so everyone's welcome. Just to comment on what you were mentioning, Lydia, about the best ways to communicate on sending that message. I think one of the key points we shared in Formentera in our workshop was trying to identify the interests of the different stakeholders, trying to understand what is their leitmotif. So speaking the same language to every different stakeholder has been key in Formentera. So for example, as the network itself invites different stakeholders, the nautical sector, even the press is really important. So one of the key things was to be on the ground. So before we try to, I mean, the anchoring was under control even before the Decreto de Posidonia, which was came into speed in 2018, if I'm right, Jorge. I mean, we were telling 150-meter yachts where to anchor. That just comes to show you that sometimes we don't need to wait for those regulations. We just need to find a way to communicate. Captains are not interested in the growth rate of the Posidonia. They're not interested on whether it has a root or a flower. They're interested in taking their clients to the beach, making that the clients swim in crystal clear waters, not where the water is dark, so that's where the Posidonia is. Crystal clear waters means that their anchor is on the sand. So if we try to identify the different interests, there's always a good way to do things and a bad way to do things. It's like driving a car. You can drive a car at 100 miles an hour, or you can drive it at 60. You're still going to get to the same place. So just to share with you that in the Balearic Islands, thanks to the support of the Government Balear, every activity has different speeds, but if you get all the information from each individual sector, everyone has their own say. Restaurants have participated. Restaurants have clients from the yachts. They also contributed, saying, okay, if this yacht is anchored on the Posidonia, the reservations, we have 500 reservations for today. We can only take 100. So let's get those yachts that are anchoring correctly and that are taking the information correctly from the surveillance team from the government. So all these little things from ground upwards is the way that we've worked in the small little island Formentera. I'm sure we've got lots to learn from, for example, carrying capacity. I think that's one of the next steps. But there's many interesting topics, but it was just to share with you, Lydia, that identifying the language and the different importance for every stakeholder has been the key for us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Daisy. We're missing you here. And for me, it's the take-home message, and it was already in Formentera, my take-home message that you have to speak with everyone, to talk with everyone, and give them the message they need to have. So we are able to adapt our messages, our key messages to the target publics or to the people we have in front of us, depending if they are socioeconomic, if it's the great public, if it's et cetera, and we are able to do it. And if we share on this all together, we will do it better for sure. So I would like essentially to thank you here in Monaco and everybody all over the Mediterranean basin that you have been contributing to this session. It's only the first step, as this is about the Mediterranean MPA roadmap. So now it's about the next steps to build all together. So thank you very much and see you soon for next steps.